Hello everyone, Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And I want to do the astrology and Kabbalah of January 2020. I am also doing a series on 2020 specifically, and I've been sort of going back and forth to see whether I wanted to do the next phase in the series or do this one. Today is January 1st, and so I think the astrology and Kabbalah of January is going to be very important. The other thing is this could easily be considered part 2 of my 2020 series, and the reason I say that is because the things that are happening in January are kind of a microcosm of 2020. So I think well, whatever I decide to do, you'll see, because it'll come up and it'll say, I think I'm going to make this part 2, but I'll see how it goes as we go through the month. Now, as you can, you may or may not remember from the first part of my 2020 series video, which was the astrology and Kabbalah of 2020. 2020 numerologically is a 4-year. And 4 is the number of crisis. It's the number of the builder. It is the number of practical concerns. So we can imagine that we're going to have some crisis this year. We certainly, we are poised for that. The difference in the energy between 2019, which was a 12-3 vibration, connected to the Hanged Man card in the tarot, and the 4 vibration, which is associated with the Emperor, is that in 2020 it's all about building, it's all about creating structure, and it's all about having dominion over that structure. And so who is the architect of your life? Well, you are. Will you allow that from the outside to press in such a way that it takes your power away from you? I would say no. Now, when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you're going to go all Game of Thrones and wield your sword and fight the powers that be. This is a much more internal experience. This is a much more internally oriented journey. Than taking up the sword. It's not really about the sword. It's about creating the foundations for your life. Now, of course, 2020 is the start of a new decade, and of course, it's a different vibration than the 2000s or the 2010s. Now we're in the 2020s, and the baseline, of course, is that 4, which is associated with this card here. In the Tree of Life, this is the path that connects Chokmah, which is the divine masculine, the yang force. Chokmah is force. To Tiphareth, which is in the center of the tree. Tiphareth means beauty. Chokmah means wisdom, the beauty of wisdom, the wisdom of beauty, perhaps. And the path is called the constituting intelligence. Constituting meaning that it is the intelligence that knows how to bring spirit to manifested form. And so we are just innately, vibrationally in that place. And so we get to create our future in our present moment. 4 is also the number of crisis. And what crisis does is it forces us to be in the moment. And so it's not about the past. It's not about the future. It's like you have to deal with what's right in front of you. And many of you will feel that energy. You just have to deal with what's right in front of you. Things will eventually precipitate out. Things will eventually manifest in the way that they will manifest. The more energy that you can put into the process of structuring your life. And it's not a structuring like, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. It's really about being in a flow. It's not about predetermined structure. We're reconstructing a new, sort of a new earth and a new world and a new way of relating to the planet and also to each other. So All right, so that's the 4 energy. So now as we come into January, we have to add the month vibration. And of course, January is the first, excuse me. My voice is better, but it seems like my mouth is not working too well right now. When we add the 1 and the 4, we get a 5 vibration. And the 5 vibration is this card right here, the Heirophant. And the sense, okay, of the 5 senses, the sense associated, and I should have said this, sense associated with the Emperor card is vision. And so it is with the energy of the Emperor card that we activate our vision. What's our vision for the future? What's our vision for our lives, right? When you get to the Hierophant, it's about hearing, it's about listening. And so when we're in a Hierophant vibration, it is about listening to that small, still voice within. On the Tree of Life, this particular card, and we can see we have it right here, is associated with this path right here, between Chokmah and Hesed. Chokmah is connected to the zodiac, all the zodiac signs, and Hesed is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is in Capricorn. Jupiter just moved into Capricorn this past December. It's going to be there until December of 2020. Jupiter is not considered happy, I guess, in Capricorn, because Jupiter is an expansive energy, and Capricorn is a very sort of strict and constricted energy. But what Jupiter helps us to do is it helps us to explore the edges. Okay, it helps us to explore just how far we can go with the resources that we have. And so Jupiter in Capricorn may not be as expansive as Jupiter in other signs, but the expansiveness is slow and steady and creates powerful structure. Okay, and so we have to keep that in mind. The other thing about this path is the Tree of Life. There are 3 pillars. There's the middle pillar, which is the pillar of transformation. And of course, we are connected all year between the pillar of transformation. And this pillar here, which is considered the male side, and that's the pillar of the past. And then we have the feminine side, topped by Bina, which is the pillar of the future. And so there is as we move with this vibration, Chokmah here connecting to Hesed, we are working a little bit more with the past this month, okay? And so things in the past, looking at the past, learning from the past, and this could be, politically, it could be that the past comes up to be evaluated or judged. There's a sense of judgment here with this Hierophant card. The Hierophant card in readings often is connected to the Constitution or the body of the government. Okay, so that's going to be evaluated through different means. Now, in America, we're going through the process of impeachment. The president has been impeached, and the next step is to bring it to the Senate so that the Senate could vote as to whether he has to leave office or not. Now, as it stands right now, the conventional wisdom is that the Republicans will not break ranks, and he will actually stay in office. But anything that's just what they're saying. That may not be the reality of things. We have to make sure we're listening with our inner ear. We're listening to that small, still voice within us. Okay. I've done readings. I've done a number of readings on the Senate trial, and there's always I've always seen like there's going to be some sort of turnaround, but we're not going to go there today. That's not what we're talking about. But there's the possibility, we don't know, and perhaps by the end of January we'll find out. But let's continue on this path. So we're looking at things from the past. Also, in other countries, there is uprising. Okay, people want their voice to be heard. This card is associated with Taurus, the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is associated with the throat. Okay, each sign is connected to a part of the body, and for Taurus, it's your throat and your neck. And so people want their voice to be heard at this time. Okay, people want to be heard. All right, so that's some of the energy that is going on, and as we connect Chokmah to Hesed, which is this circle right here, the Jupiter circle, to the zodiac circle, Chokmah, we are activating the third eye and throat chakra, and so it's about vision, it's about voice, and it's about listening. Okay. All right. So, and then of course what's in Taurus, whatever planets are in Taurus are going to be significant in the month of January. And the planets that we have in Taurus are, of course, Uranus, which moved into Taurus last year, and Vesta is in Taurus. Okay, Vesta is what we choose to focus on. Taurus also brings in the energy of the earth because Taurus is the first earth sign. And so we're not just going to have this political argument and all this other stuff happening and all this governmental stuff that's definitely going to happen. We're probably going to have some earth things as well. So just be aware of that. Okay. So all right. So let's turn the page here. And actually I'm actually going to pull this off, and I have to put it back on because I'm doing this talk tomorrow. Here, if you happen to be in Wareham or close by, and you would like to hear a more expanded version of what I'm telling you today, we are going to be having the astrology of January 2020 here at the center. 7 to 9, and if you want to directions or whatever, you can just email me, and I can give you that information if you happen to live in the Wareham, southeastern Massachusetts area. And I don't think we're supposed to be getting weather, so I think we should be fine. So I just want to kind of show you this chart here. This is the chart for January 1st. Today, actually, this is the chart for today, and I don't know if you notice a pattern here, but and this was for I believe. Hold on. Oh, I don't have it here. I think this was 1 minute after midnight. So like at the stroke of 12, the next minute, this is the chart. And can you see all the Capricorn that we have? Okay. We have, let's see, we have starting from here, we have Mercury in Capricorn, we have Jupiter in Capricorn, we have the south node of the moon in Capricorn, we have the sun in Capricorn, we have Ceres, that's what this is right here, Ceres in Capricorn, we have Saturn in Capricorn, and we have Pluto in Capricorn. That's a whole lot of Capricorn going on, okay? And I've coined this as this year, and certainly in January, Capricorn Palooza. This will be the time, I believe. I think in March Mars is going to take the place of Mercury, and so Mars is going to, I believe, is that right? Yes, Mars is going to be in Capricorn. So we have this huge Capricorn pileup in January, and then we're going to see that again in March. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. That's a lot of Capricorn to have. Okay, and so a lot of the things that are happening now in January are going to be Capricorn related. So let's talk about that. So I'm just going to turn this over, and I'm going to go over the major things that are happening in January, sort of in order of how it's going to happen. I know a lot of you are concerned about the Pluto Saturn conjunction. We are going to talk about that. But the first thing that happens actually happens on the 2nd. And that is the Mercury and Jupiter make a conjunction in, of course, Capricorn. What else would it be conjuncting in, right? And what's interesting about Mercury and Jupiter is Mercury is the planet of the logical mind, the left brain, and Jupiter is associated with the right creative brain. And when they come together in a conjunction, the right and the left hemisphere of the brains are at the same point. It's the start of the synodic cycle between Jupiter and Mercury. And every year, Mercury comes to Jupiter, and they conjoin in the sign that Jupiter is in, because Jupiter is in a sign for a year. Mercury is in a sign, depending on whether it's retrograde or not, anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks. So it's going to be Jupiter that determines where it begins. And it's in Capricorn. And so our mind is on the same page, and it's on the Capricorn page. What do I need to do to bring myself financial security, physical security, so that I can build the life that I want to build? So there's a lot of practical concerns going on. Incidentally, I don't know if I discussed this when I talked about Jupiter moving into Capricorn, but I believe the last time Jupiter moved into Capricorn was 12 years ago. It was right around, well, anyway, there's usually a downturn in the economy. And I know that, Trump keeps talking about how great the economy is, how great the economy is. It's great for people who have money and who have stocks. That is true. For the average person who can't afford $400 car bill, it's not a great economy. Is there work out there? Yes. Is the work good paying work? Right. So there's of course, this is all like a big discussion we could have. So I don't want to go there. But this conjunction is the start of putting our mind in one place when it comes to how are we going to structure. And this actually occurs at 8 degrees of Capricorn. And the Sabian symbol for 8 degrees of Capricorn is in a sunlit home, domestic birds sing joyously. It says the wholesome happiness which subservience to ideals and patterns of well-established culture brings those who accept them unreservedly. It says in a healthy culture, and I put healthy in quotes, in a healthy culture, humans can find enjoyment in the roles they are born to play. And so this is a symbol sort of saying, well, if you just sort of go by the way, if you just sort of, you know, go the way that it's always been, and everything's going to be fine. Let's get back to the way it was. That's true if the culture is healthy. If the culture is not healthy, then that doesn't apply. And so while this symbol talks about, sort of staying within the bounds and the structures of a culture, the culture is in disarray. And so we might find our minds in disarray as well. And so while this is sort of maybe a comforting symbol for some, it's not necessarily going to be the reality that we have. But our mind's going to be on that. Our mind's going to be on that. Okay. So, all right. On the 3rd of January, Mars changes signs. It's been in Scorpio. Mars loves being in Scorpio. Now it moves into Sagittarius. Mars in Sagittarius is much more future-oriented. It needs freedom. Scorpio is not so much into freedom. Scorpio is more into connection. Sometimes it's not healthy connection. Sometimes it's like clinging and manipulative and controlling. But in Sag, Mars just sort of throws up his hands and says, I'm going, right? So there's this sense of sort of wanting to move in the direction of your beliefs. Now, that can be good and that can be bad. If you have been developing your beliefs and they have been changing with your personal experience, then this is a good shift. If you are more of the type of person who is sort of into dogma, you're going to feel empowered by your dogma, but this is a new age, and that dogma is certainly not going to bring you peace. But what it can do is it's going to make people very sure in a way of what they're doing. Right now, that can work both ways. So the energies that are in the ethers, don't judge. It's the energy. It's what we get to use and what we get to utilize. So you may be utilizing it in a positive way. Another person is going to utilize it in, probably, we could say, maybe a more negative way. If that's the case, you just need to be aware of it. It's not your job to convince them. It's your job to take care of your own self and your own stuff. And it's your job to build your foundations. If you find that people are sort of impinging upon that because of their beliefs and because of that, then that becomes more of an issue. But so Mars is in Sagittarius. All right. So on, let me see if it's here. Yes. So on the 9th, is it the 9th? Hold on. On the 8th of January, sorry about that. That's a Wednesday. Jupiter is going to make a conjunction to the south node of the moon. And Jupiter is about expansion, as we spoke of. The south node of the moon is the past. And so this is an expansion, and perhaps, or possibly, an illumination followed by an understanding of the past. So this could be sort of like something gets unlocked at this point. Jupiter there. Jupiter unlocks the past somehow, and the past comes out for us to see, for us to be expanded, to sort of, it's like, here it is, folks, here it is. Okay, so that could be happening. That's occurring at 9 degrees of Capricorn. The saving symbol here is actually a much nicer symbol in my estimation. It says an angel carrying a harp, the revelation of spiritual meaning and purpose at the core of any life situation. The key word here is attunement to the rhythms of universal life. A lot of people give the south node of the moon a bad rap, and perhaps you got that sense from me as well. Because I talk about the south node of the moon being the place that you have to release and let go of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and that is true. That is true. But the south node also holds within it talents and abilities. And so we have access to the past and to things that perhaps we're good at. So we can keep that in mind as well. All right. On the 10th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse. It's occurring at 20 degrees of Cancer. The sun, of course, is at 20 degrees of Capricorn. I was watching, oh my goodness, I can't remember her name. She does numerology. She's really good. But she was talking about, we're in 2020, and the full moon eclipse is at 20 degrees. And of course, the moon's at 20, the sun's at 20. So it's 2020, 2020, all kinds of 2020s. Everything adds up to a 4, all the same, right? Okay, so that's interesting. Anyway, this is really the second week of October. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll write that down. Maybe that means something from October, but the second week of January is really kaboom. And it's already started. It's already started. The south node, Jupiter on the south node, and then the next day we have the full moon lunar eclipse. This is the lunar eclipse of the solar eclipse that we had on the 26th of December. That occurred at 5 degrees. I think it was 4 or 5 degrees of Capricorn, and it was conjunct Jupiter. Remember that? I mean, it was only, a couple of days ago, but so many things happen, and the energy is so intense that sometimes a day ago seems like a year, or a minute. It just depends on where you're sort of sitting in the day, right? Okay, so we have this full moon in Cancer, and let me see if I can pull this off. I think I can literally pull this off. Now, there's something very interesting about this, both astrologically, numerologically, so many different things. First of all, this full moon occurs on the 10th, right? So we have 110. 2002 is a 4 vibration. If we add all that together, we get a 15-6 vibration. Can you see that? 15. I don't even know if you can even read that. The 15-6 is the devil card in the tarot, and the devil card, of course, is associated with, well, maybe you don't know this, but it is associated with Capricorn. It's where all of that Capricorn energy is sitting on the tree of life. And I probably should show you that too. I'll pull the tree of life. I'll turn it over again. Let me see if I can find the devil card. Here we go. So this is the vibration, okay, of that particular day, 15-6. Now, here we have the moon here at 20, the sun here at 20. It is conjunct Mercury. It is conjunct Ceres. It is conjunct Saturn. It is conjunct Pluto. And we can see that Pluto and Saturn are very close to each other because on the next day, Pluto and Saturn conjoin for the first time since 1982, when it happened in, I think it was 28 degrees of Libra. That's only going to happen once. And so it is really the thing that's happening. If you had to do like the most important things that are happening in 2020, that's the most important thing, right? And there are other ones that are also important, but slightly less important, but still very important. But for all intents and purposes, we're in January. This is the thing, okay? All right. So we have this full moon. The full moon is actually square. This asteroid here, it is at 20 degrees again of Libra. This asteroid is Juno. Juno is the asteroid of relationship. Okay, relationship. It's also the asteroid associated with how well we take care of the people who can't take care of themselves. Juno was the consort of Jupiter. In Greek mythology, she was the queen of heaven, Hera, to Zeus, to her husband Zeus. She actually predated Zeus. She was in power before Zeus came in, the energy of Hera. And oftentimes in mythology, it excuse me, when gods would marry, it was really sort of a marriage of convenience, a political. Excuse me. I should have brought some water down. I didn't. Sort of a marriage of convenience or such. So she had to share the power once Zeus came into the picture, so to speak. And she's a woman of power in her own right. All right. So when there is something squaring the axis of the full moon here, it's as if the question of how we relate to one another, what is fair, and it's in Libra, so it's about illegal issues. And so there's some sort of illumination, and perhaps illumination about who's relating to who, why somebody's relating to somebody, and what that all means. So I feel as though relationships are going to be exposed, okay, in this energy. On the same day as this, let me see, the same day, we also have the Sun and Mercury making their superior conjunction at 20 degrees of Capricorn. And the planet Uranus stations direct on that day. And I have a little, in this thing, I put Uranus there. Remember, it's important what's in Taurus in January, and Uranus stations direct in Taurus. This is a big deal. Whenever Uranus or the transpersonal planets Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, when they change directions, they build up a lot of power. Neptune is probably the one you would notice the least because of the type of energy Neptune has, very a dissolving energy, although it also deals with mass consciousness and sort of the power of nature. So with Neptune, sometimes we'll have a storm. Pluto is, there's usually something happens that could be like a seismic activity when Pluto changes direction. The first bombing of the World Trade Center happened back in, was it 1993, when Pluto changed direction. So things like things shakes the foundations. That explosion actually happened in the basement of the Twin Towers. So sort of shook the foundations. And but when Uranus changes direction, Uranus is explosive energy, and it's illuminating, and it wakes us up. And so this full moon is very powerful in itself. It's an eclipse. There is a lot, all the planets line up, and then the next day we have the Pluto Saturn conjunction, and Uranus is moving, is stationing direct. What does that mean? It means change. Incidentally, the 5, which is the Heirophant card for the month, is the vibration of change. It's the vibration of change. Okay, so that's a big deal. So let's talk about the biggest deal. We'll call it the biggest deal this time. Some people might disagree. And this is the Saturn conjunction of Pluto. And I will be right back to discuss that. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the decade. And that's the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 2020. So the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is occurring on the 12th of January, and it occurs at 11:59 and 24 minutes a.m. On the east coast of the U.S., meaning that it is happening when those planets, it's noon, and so it's like it's where when the sun is the highest. And so this is the chart, and I did this chart for Washington, D.C. You can do a chart for wherever you live, but I think it's pretty important that we look at this chart for a number of reasons. And we're going to really dig into this chart to get some clues. The first clue I want to talk about is the vibration here. The vibration of the day, and I have it written here, but I don't think you can see it, so I'm just going to do it in a pen where I think you can see it. So we have it. It's on the 12th, and it's and of course it's the 4-year vibration. And when you add that together, we get the 17/8 vibration. 17/8 vibration is the star card in the deck. Okay. Now Pluto Saturn is pretty serious conjunction. When Pluto and Saturn have made conjunctions in the past, there has been a shift and change in the structure of power. And so in America in 1982, it was pretty much the beginning of the sort of Republican neocon, the Reagan presidency, even though I think Bush might have been in office in 82. I'm sorry, I don't know that. I'm looking, I know what day it is, quite frankly. And so now we're at the end of that cycle. And it's interesting that we find the Republican president impeached. And what's something else, another interesting thing, the Democratic Party, the birthday of the Democratic Party is January 8th, I believe. And so this conjunction is happening on the sun of the Democratic Party. So, all right. So let's get back to digging in. So we have the 17/8 vibration, and I want to pull that card. This is very significant. Now, this little part that I'm doing here will be part 2 of my my 2020 stuff. So if you want to look at that, this is going to be the same video. I figured I would just do, instead of repeating myself. And I'm looking for the star and I can't find it. I can't find my guiding star. So 17/8 is the star, and it is about, I must have passed it right up in the beginning. It is about finding your guiding star. It's a card associated with Aquarius, okay? And as far as, is there anything in Aquarius? Well, why, yes, there is. We have Venus all by herself here in Aquarius at 2842 of Aquarius. What's interesting about that is that in the Sibley chart, the moon is at 27 degrees of Aquarius, or 28 degrees of Aquarius. And so here we have Venus. So Venus in this chart is conjunct the moon of the Sibley chart of the United States. Interesting little factoid. The degree that Pluto and Saturn come together, in this case in the 10th house, if this is a mundane chart, the 10th house is the house of the presidency. And so this could be being held accountable and being held responsible. And let's read the Sabian symbol for this degree. The 23rd degree, it says a soldier receiving 2 awards for bravery in combat. Okay. The rewards offered by society for the fulfillment of individual responsibility. So this particular vibration, or this particular theme, or picture, is about being responsible and how you're going to be okay, sorry, I had to pause that. My husband came down. He brought me water, but he's so good. He didn't know. Well, he knows psychically. He knows. Okay, so so we have this happening in the 10th house. But if you look here, and the first house cusp, for this chart, the first house cusp is 1 degree 29 minutes, and there we have Uranus sitting there right in the first house, as well as Vesta sitting there in the first house. Uranus is conjunct the ascendant of this chart, and of course, first house is in Taurus is concerned about resources. Okay, resources. So that's important as well. What else did I want to say about this chart? There's a couple of very interesting things happening. There actually is a yod in this chart to the moon. The moon is at 17 degrees of Leo. See that in the 4th house. And we have Neptune making an inconjunct to the moon, and the MC of this chart making an inconjunct to the moon. So this is the moon in a chart is the people. Okay, so this is going to cause adjustments to be made that have to be made by the people. All right, let's see what else I want to say about this this chart. This particular conjunction is occurring in the 3rd decan of Capricorn. The 3rd decan of Capricorn is ruled by the sign of Virgo. There's also another that is ruled by Virgo, so it's also ruled by Mercury, because Mercury rules Virgo. And Mercury in the chart is conjunct this. So all of this is conjunct together. Okay. Ceres, interestingly enough, here in the middle of the mix, Ceres Ceres is the goddess of the grain, agriculture, and such. But she is she's a symbol of the scythe. Scythe, I think. I say that wrong all the time. Sorry, guys. The scythe, and she's the reaper, right? You reap the grain. All your work, and the grain comes down and then it goes on the threshing floor. So there's this symbol of something getting cut down at this time, to be sort of like put on the threshing floor and threshed. Threshing means they mash it so that they can separate what's good from what's bad. And so what is useful and what is dross. And so this is the process of this that's also sort of in this Saturn Pluto conjunction. And because we're working, all of this Capricorn energy is on the side of the South Node. This also indicates that while this is a new beginning, um, there is some things that still need to be let go of. There are still things that need to be discerned, because we're dealing with Virgo decade. Um, that's a very Virgo thing, right? The putting the scythe, and then you put it on the threshing floor and you thresh it. That's what Virgo does. Virgo decides what's of use and what's not of use. And then the other interesting thing is that it's every 2.5 degrees in a sign is part of something called a dwad. Now there's a much longer name, and it's from um, Hindu astrology. So I'm not going to say it because I don't know how to say it. I've always called it a dwad. But it happens that the dwad, okay, of this degree of Capricorn is also Virgo. And so while we have all this Capricorn energy, we also have Aquarius vibrationally from the numbers. And if we look deeper into the degree that this is in, we're looking at Virgo. And so Virgo is really about making things work better. Virgo is really about looking at things and saying, this works, this doesn't work, let's throw it out, let's redo it, let's do this. And then, of course, with Aquarius and the star vibration, the star card vibration, it really is about making the world a better place for everyone, sort of leveling out the playing field. This is, for Capricorn, this is actually a very progressive sort of under energy here. And so it really is about building a better future, um, and doing it in a responsible way. Okay. And so as we move through this month, as we move through this year, and as we move through this decade, you have to ask yourself, is this something that's going to be able to sustain itself? Is this something that can sustain me? Is this something that is in harmony with the world around me? Is this going to help everyone or just a select few? These are the questions. And it's very interesting that a conjunction in Capricorn, you would think about those things, but it's not. Capricorn can be that sort of patriarchal, hierarchical structure, but it's also a very spiritual sign. That's just the very sort of nuts and bolts Capricorn. We're going to build upon this and we're going to oppress. But there's another side to Capricorn. Capricorn as an energy is the redeemer. It's the energy of the redeemer. It is, as the ruler in a natural chart of the 10th house, it's the way up and out of the body. That's why Jesus, they put his birthday in Capricorn, because he is the Redeemer God, right? He's one of the Redeemer gods. He's actually Pisces, okay, and he's got a lot of Pisces in his chart. Maybe someday we'll take a look at that chart. Okay, so there's that. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to look at very deeply in this chart. I wanted to go as deep as we could. Of course, this conjunction is also square Juno in Libra, and so again, how are we going to relate? How are we going to get along? How can we build the future if we can't even agree on what the problem is, right? We're so far apart. That is going to change, and that is part of the process of 2020 is the people who refuse to get out of their corners um, are going to have to start coming a little bit closer in, and we're going to have to start, and what's going to create that is crisis, whether it's financial crisis or it's earth change crisis, whatever it is, it's going to be crisis. And we're going to have to come at some point and sit at the table. A lot of the tumult and the crisis is happening. Things probably aren't really going to start moving until 2021. Once the whole, the United States decides who their president is going to be. 2021 is a little bit more about sort of moving in the right direction, assuming that we can get 2020. We, as humans, we have free will, so you can decide to go with the energies and make things easier on yourself, or you can dig your heels in and make things harder on yourself. And so, even in your own life, where are you digging in your heels, where you know you need to let go? That's part of the process here. Okay. All right, let me just see if there's anything else I want to mention about this. Okay. Also on that day, on the day of this conjunction, we have Mercury making a conjunction to Saturn and Mercury making a conjunction to Pluto. And so Mercury-Saturn synodic cycle is how do we structure our reality mentally? And then Pluto and Mercury, the start of the synodic cycle, is the soul, the world's soul. Pluto in Capricorn is seeding Mercury, and it is a process of the transformation of how we think. So there's a simultaneous process going on. All right, and both of those processes come to their halfway point. Okay, in August, so the halfway point between a conjunction. So from conjunction, the halfway point is the opposition, and then you come around to the conjunction again. So it's at the opposition when we become aware of what was seated at that place, and and we have this opposition on. Let's see. So the first one is the 1st of August 2020. We have Mercury making an opposition to Pluto. It's occurring at 24 degrees of Mercury in Cancer, 24 degrees of Pluto in Capricorn. And the vibration for that day is a 13-4, which is the death card. So the death card is about letting go. And so we will become aware of what ideas perhaps that we need to let go of. What has to change? What has to change? Okay. And then we also have the opposition of Saturn and Mercury. And that occurs on the 3rd of 3rd of August, and the vibration on that day is the 15-6 vibration, which of course is the devil card, right? But it's the Capricorn card, so it's about responsibility. And so we will be illuminated to perhaps who's responsible. Of course, we know we're responsible for ourselves, but we'll see what happens, right? Okay, so that's what I want to say about the Pluto Saturn conjunction. I'm probably going to say more at some point, but that's where we're going to stop on that. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is what else is happening in January. I realize that this is going to be long, so apologies right up front. Okay, I'll be right back. So once we get once we get Jupiter conjunct South Node, the full moon lunar eclipse at 2020, right? 20 Cancer, Sun 20 Capricorn, and Uranus turning direct, and then the Pluto Saturn conjunction, and then the conjunction of Mercury to Pluto and Saturn on the same day. That would be enough for like 6 months worth of astrology, but that's the first 2 weeks. So let's look at a little bit past that. Things will maybe feel a little less intense, maybe not, because this is big energy. So let's let's continue. Excuse me. Okay, guys, excuse me. I have my entering Boston glass. I love these pint glasses. I love to drink water out of them, and I love to drink beer out of them. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of January, assuming we've all made it through the first 2 weeks. All right. On January 15th, we have a sextile between Venus and Uranus. This is a progressive sextile, so there is a sense of moving in a more progressive direction. We have Venus in nicely placed in Pisces, and Uranus in Capricorn. Uranus in Taurus, and this really gives us an opportunity to sort of be compassionate towards other while moving in a more progressive direction. So I like that. That's good. On the 16th of January, Mercury moves into Aquarius, and so now we have Mercury in Aquarius, and Mercury in Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign associated with the higher mind. Mercury in Aquarius is very inventive. It's a time when we are thinking in a more revolutionary way, a more out of the box way. We're more concerned with the common good generally, or we can be concerned with the group that we're a member of. And so there can be some cliquishness, and there's always a shadow. There's a shadow to every sign. And for Aquarius, it can be this sense of, superiority because I'm in the right group, right? I'm the brightest, I'm the smartest. Sometimes in Aquarius, we can forget our heart, but the opposite sign of Aquarius is Leo. Leo rules the heart, and Aquarius rules the circulatory system. And the heart can't share its love without a pathway, Aquarius. And Aquarius cannot sustain itself without the power of the pump, the heart, right? So we need both of those things. So anytime a planet is in a sign, like now we have all this Capricorn energy, and of course Pluto is in Capricorn, you have to bring in the balance of the opposite sign, which in the case of Pluto and all this Capricorn stuff is Cancer. Well, the same is true of when Mercury moves into Leo. We need to bring into Aquarius. Sorry, we need to bring that Leo energy in. So sort of that heart-centered energy as well. It's the balance between the opposites that really give us the energy and the way of seeking out balance in our lives. Okay, so let's see what else is going on. On the 18th of January, Mercury is going to be making a square to Uranus. This is the last quarter crisis in consciousness square. Remember, Mercury is our lower mind, Uranus is our higher mind. We are questioning authority. And of course, Mercury is in the sign of Aquarius, which is going to question authority anyway. And this could be issues around fair distribution of resources. This could be issues around money and the people who have all the money and how it's not being distributed in a fair manner. Okay, so that could be an issue that comes up. On the 20th of January, the sun moves into Aquarius. And then on the 23rd, the sun makes a square to Uranus. This again is a last quarter crisis in consciousness square. All of these last quarter squares that we see is really about questioning authority and wanting to do it in a different way, in a way where the people have more to say about it, right? The fairness, the Aquarius side. And so we may see more uprisings in more countries. We may see it in this country, in America, where the people feel like those in power are deaf to their cries, and so we'll see more and more upheavals. And there isn't, and it's happening in China, it's happening in South America, it's happening in the Middle East, it's happening in America. It's happening everywhere. The whole planet is rising up, and this is part of the rising up um, of 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 humanity to make the changes that need to be made so that we can survive and ultimately thrive into the future. So on the 24th of January, it's Friday, we have a new moon at 5 degrees of Aquarius. I'm really excited about this new moon because my Jupiter is at 5 degrees of Aquarius. So, and Jupiter rules. Jupiter in Aquarius is very much an astrology kind of thing. But what was I going to say? Oh dear. So this is occurring at 5 degrees of Aquarius, and it is actually square Uranus, which brings a little bit more of that Aquarian energy into the mix. The Sabian symbol for 5 degrees of Aquarius is a council of ancestors, is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. It says the root foundation of past performances which power and sustain whatever decision is made in a crisis by an individual, reliant upon precedents. So this is this sense of a sort of a young leader coming up, and implementing, and the wise sage sort of energy, helping the young new idea foster and grow. This new moon, of course, is square Uranus, and it's also sextile Chiron. So it has a sense of there's within this new moon is a sense of recognizing the wound, and an effort to heal it, in very sort of Aquarian and progressive ways. This particular vibration, if you add up the numerology of this new moon, we get a 2911 vibration. The 2911 vibration is the same vibration as the word light. So it is a light vibration. It is a master number. And so we are required to sort of work with this energy at a higher level. Okay. So this is very exciting. It's a lovely new moon, I think. Okay, and then on what day is this? On Monday, the 27th of January, we have a conjunction between Neptune and Venus. What's interesting about this is, first of all, it occurs at 17 degrees of Pisces. The Sabian symbol for 17 degrees of Pisces is an Easter parade. The keynote here is the capacity in all great sociocultural images to unite the members of a community in a display of excellence. And it says participation in a peak collective experience. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. And so we have the planet of love and the planet of compassion coming together at 17 degrees of Pisces. It is actually, I believe, hold on, let me see. It's actually square Mars in Sagittarius. And so this brings energy to this conjunction. It can bring, and the way that Mars is interacting with Neptune. It is a crisis it's a crisis in consciousness, and so Mars is questioning authority here. And then the relationship between Mars and Venus is actually one of a first quarter square, and so there's this need to structure relationships in a different way. And so there is this, again, this energy of while we're simultaneously letting go, we are also sort of recreating things in a way that's more amenable to what we understand about ourselves. Okay. So that's pretty much the thing. The exact square between Mars and Neptune occurs the next day on the 28th. And whenever Mars and Neptune get together, it can be very confusing. So be careful on the roads that day. Unexpected things can happen, things that you just don't see happening. There could be some weather, there could be fog. Just be careful. And just in general, January promises to be a very intense experience. And so I want you all to be careful through this time. And I'll be with you each day so we can discuss what's going on. If you enjoyed this reading, please like and subscribe. If you would like to have a personal reading with me, there's links below that you can follow. And I also have a donation button down there. So if you feel like this information is helpful to you, if you want to help support my channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. Have yourself a beautiful January. I will be back to do more on the 2020 outlook, but I'll probably wait a couple of days to do that. So have yourself a great month, and we're going to be fine through all of this, folks. It's a very exciting time to be alive. A lot of opportunities are going to be offered to you. It's just going to be a matter of discerning which ones and how to go about it is going to work best for you. Take it easy. Bye.